Now that there is a little bit of background to where this is coming from, it should be easier to understand my opinions and devastation. As the kind of person that's on the riverbank before the sun rises, just to sneak in a few casts before work. Never missing a day of work, but wouldn't think twice about quitting, just to hunt the rut. The woods where I belong, and the darkness my companion. The darker, thicker, nastier it got, the closer to an undisturbed natural world I could get. Around the age of 10, I read a book called The Tracker, the true story of Tom Brown Jr. as told by William John Watkins. A story of a boy's apprenticeship in the wild from an ancient Apache medicine man. Learning all that is hidden from modern man. After entire days and as late into the night as I could get away with, waiting crouched in a little brush pile, I would use one arm just to help hold my other arm stretched out over a trail. It took weeks, with many failed attempts, but I finally touched a live deer without it knowing. One of the biggest thrills I could get out of my young mind. I would hide on the side of a trail, waiting for people. I would let them get a little ways past me, then I would creep out onto the trail and begin the stalk. Trying my best to time my steps with theirs, I would take a longer stride between steps to close the distance. To be successful, I would have to get close enough to touch them and place my foot into their track as they are pulling their foot out. Then get off the trail, without ever being seen. It's actually much easier than you may think. Most will never know I was there. The hunters that thought they were being stealthy, then out of nowhere get a tap on the shoulder and a whisper from right behind them.
Seeing anything?
They will most likely never forget. Felt bad sometimes. It wasn't meant to startle them as much as it did. Some guys jumped so hard, or let out a yell, I got startled myself. Luckily, none have squeezed off around. So as I get into these strange things, this is not happening the first few times in the woods in the dark. Over the years, I have accumulated a massive amount of experience. It's not as though I think something is strange, I know. Something is definitely odd here. The first thing that happened that I felt was actually odd was shortly after moving to a new place. We found a little house on the edge of a little town. There were woods right in the backyard, starting only a few yards from the back of the house, a nice little river within sight, and some creeks just a short drive away. The perfect spot for someone like myself. We moved in midsummer, and I didn't waste any time getting to know the local section of river, being obsessed with going after bigger fish with teeth from the time I had a northern inhale the bluegill at the end of my line, a few feet from shore, when I was a little kid. With a river that is supposed to hold northern pike and stocked with muskie right down the road, it was tough to think about anything else. As the weeks turned into months, I get my fix of toothy fish over 40 inches, and summer fades into fall. There is a change in the atmosphere, and my other obsession starts taking over. Like a switch being flipped, thoughts about water turn into thoughts about woods. Building lures and tying flies becomes sharpening broad heads and fletching arrows. There are some new woods right behind the house that still need to be explored, and now they are calling to me. The woods start at the bottom of a fairly steep hill. It goes up for about 100 yards, then levels out. The woods continue straight back and to the left for quite a ways, about 50 yards behind a cornfield to the other side, having the potential for a very good hunting spot. Since I have never ventured very far in and not wanting to alert any wildlife to my presence, figured I should start close on the first morning, right at the top of the hill. Being able to see deeper into the woods from up in a tree, I can get an idea on where I would want to be next. So after getting home from work that Friday, I climbed up the hill with my climbing tree stand to find a tree to set up in. My stand ready to go, I was out the door the following morning with plenty of time before sunrise. Although it felt like a hike, getting to the top of the hill. Looking back down towards the house, it felt like I was almost still in the backyard. I remember how the light from the house was making it hard for my eyes to adjust to the dark. That's how close I was to the back of my own house, and that's how I know it was odd. After all those dark mornings and evenings walking in and out of the woods, with all the time spent in the dark, in much more remote places, here I am, within sight of my own house, just barely outside of my backyard floodlights, and I am having a panic attack. What is going on with you? I kept asking myself. I didn't understand it. Hitting me suddenly as soon as I stepped off the porch. I feel like a little kid that's afraid of the dark, feeling stiff and nervous as I push myself to keep climbing the hill. My body wanted to run back down to the house, but my mind couldn't come up with anything to run from, feeling absolutely terrified and extremely uncomfortable, and for no reason at all. My skin burning with anticipation, ears ringing from straining to listen, the lump in my throat making it hard to swallow, and my body is getting so tense, everything becoming more difficult to do. Maybe I had a really bad dream and don't remember, that's why I'm so paranoid. What else could it be? I haven't seen or heard anything. There is a strong odor in the air. Maybe that's making me feel sick and not enough sleep is causing the rest. I was very disappointed in myself. I didn't know what was going on with me. I actually believed that there wasn't anything out there that wouldn't be more afraid of me. Felt weak, for feeling afraid for no reason. For the first time ever, I wasn't comfortable in the woods. Once I get to my tree and get off the ground, it will go away. It didn't. I felt even more vulnerable as I worked my way about 20 feet up the tree. Even once the stand was strapped to the tree and I'm trying to get set up, it felt like a bad situation. Now, I can't run, even if I wanted to. Trapped on a little aluminum platform up in a tree, I felt like I were serving myself on a dish. With another hour to go before the sun even begins to break the sky, every single second just completely sucked. The dark woods completely quiet, my heartbeat never sounded so loud. It had been daylight for a little while, before I finally calmed down. Everything I had been feeling that morning had gone away, but not completely. It is impossible to forget feeling like that. Do not want it happening again, and I don't even know what caused it. I wouldn't know the reason for another year or so, but more and more odd things were being noticed almost immediately. While thinking back on it, I can't believe what I did. There is no telling how close I may have been from them. It is even possible they were up there checking out my tree stand at the base of that tree. Then I just come crawling up the hill right to them, totally blind. Probably right behind me, while bent over strapping my feet to the stand. That's where it felt like the threat was coming from at the time. Could have been only a few feet from me, watching as I worked my way up that tree. For at least a couple seconds, right at eye level. Completely oblivious they even exist. Knowing something wasn't normal about that morning. That wasn't the normal kind of paranoid feeling you might get after watching a horror movie or something. It felt real, like an actual life-threatening situation. Never feeling like it was my own thoughts creating paranoia, because I was thinking about deer as it suddenly hit me. Without a known cause, I blamed it on myself. Thought I was becoming afraid of the dark or something. It was kind of depressing. Then one day, while standing in my tree stand, I realized I have been in the woods in the dark every day for the last 2 weeks. Not once did I feel uncomfortable, but I'm in different woods. So a few nights I would walk out towards the woods behind the house, just to see if it would happen again. Each time nothing happened, it felt fine. Must have just been a one-time thing. Glad I won't have to go through that again. The woods were back to normal, and I felt good out there. Then one night, I went outside a little later than usual to grab something I left in the truck. Again, as soon as I stepped off the porch, walking into my illuminated yard, only a few steps from the door, I get hit with that same bad feeling. It's back, and so is that smell.